Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coffee with Craig show. We'll be talking about commercial real estate in Central and Eastern Europe. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coffee with Craig show. We are here at Expo Real with Carl Michael Schibrowski. And Carl, welcome to the Coffee with Craig show, and thank you for taking your time here at Expo Real to be with us and to talk to our listeners and our watchers a little bit about Saudi Invest.
Thank you, Craig. Good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So first of all, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and let's say your professional life and how you got to Saudi Invest.
Yeah, well, my background is 28 years in large-scale urban development projects. So I've worked predominantly in Australia. I've done some work in Europe and in the US over that period of time.
Okay.
But I've always worked on large-scale urban redevelopment, regeneration projects. And I think this project is really, it tests every one of my
This is large scale.
Yeah.
This is considered large scale, yes?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Saudi Invest for maybe the people that haven't heard about it yet.
Yeah. So I'm with Murabba Development Company. So we're wholly owned by the public investment funds in Saudi. And so our project is a major urban infill project within Riyadh. So it's a new modern downtown for Riyadh in the growth corridor of the city. And the way that the project is structured and set up is that the PIF investment company really focuses on providing that early seed capital. And the overall sort of structure of the company is wholly owned. But as we move forward, we work with organisations like Saudi Invest to facilitate the introduction of third-party capital into the discrete investment opportunities that project will provide.
So you guys are really putting in the infrastructure and putting in the whole framework of the project, and then and so here at Expo Real, what are you looking to get out of Expo this year? You have a huge stand, so obviously you want to make the impact.
Well, and good that you contextualize that like that, because I think if you look at where we are today, we have control of an incredible parcel of land. We have an amazing concept master plan that's in place, and so we're getting very close to being able to pull out just individual communities or components of the project. As the Murabba advances in its construction, we can also look at the overall master plan and say, well, which of those elements can we bring to the market, bring the right partnerships, capability, capital, and operating skills to sort of bring it to life.
Right. So here are you looking for, let's say, someone to build a hotel and they'll run that part, someone to build the schools and the residential, someone to do it more of the the retail, that kind of end? Is there?
Yeah, well, I think Murabba Development Company has the ability to do the full development cycle. But we're open in the overall scheme of things as to whether we look at individual land sales, but it will be within the context that what's provided or delivered in those components is very well defined from the early stage. So yeah, but going back to my earlier point, we'll be definitely looking towards organisations that have strong track record capability in delivering development operating asset specific elements of that overall master plan.
So really developers that are going to operate it as well.
Yeah.
So you don't really, so if someone's walking on stage and they say, we want to build the residential and sell it off.
Yes.
Is that also interesting, or is it more just we want to build it, develop it, and run it?
I think it's horses for courses, so it really depends on what that particular aspect of the community is sort of all about. But we like to think of ourselves as a master developer. We can't do all of this on our own.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
a whole city.
It's a whole city. Yeah. And I don't think anyone that attempts to do that without bringing all of these multiple strands together. So that's how we see our role, is to sort of effectively provide the groundwork, literally, and the context to bring the new Murabba master plan to life.
Right. So I'm sure you're running into quite a few investors and developers that haven't done anything in the Middle East yet, or at least some. Yes. So what would you say for the people watching the show? What are the opportunities for developers that have a lot of experience, or investors with a lot of experience but no experience locally?
Yeah.
What is their opportunity?
Well, there's opportunities through the full spectrum, and I think the early stage of that is there's a lot of interesting parties that are looking at infrastructure, utilities, and those groups are sort of have been I think, looking at the kingdom for quite a long period of time. And then naturally, that's the first part of the overall development cycle. But what I would say is that within the context of New Murabba is an investor that would look at it say is that largely what we're trying to achieve is, or we're committed to achieving is is relatively conventional, excluding the macabre, which is one first of a kind.
Yeah.
But within the overall master plan, while it's an exceptional step change in terms of the urban model, there's very solid underpinnings around residential demand, the growth in tourism, the need for retail amenity, and there's a strong commercial drive there for office and workplace. So I think what I would say to a foreign investor that's not familiar with it is that the real estate fundamentals are very sound. And I'd also sort of say that many organisations are familiar with what may have gone on, previously in other parts of the Gulf region and stuff.
Right.
What distinguishes New Murabba and Riyadh is that Riyadh is a very established city. So 7.5 million people to start with. So
sure.
you're
big
you're investing into a market that is opening up at incredible speed. With the opportunity for foreign investors to work in there. There's sweeping changes sort of going through relatively regulatory and related environments, and just clearing the way for foreign investors to be able to place capital with a high degree of confidence. And anyone that we speak to that doesn't have a lot of familiarity gets comfort that we're effectively alongside the major sovereign wealth vehicle. We've got great alignment with the city, and also so through that governmental related framework, there's large elements that are substantially de-risked about this sort of style of investment.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed, Saudi Arabia, I think if you talk to people that went 15 or 20 years ago, it's hard to convince them, I would imagine, because they go, oh, we've been there, we've done it, but now it's so different. It's such a really different place and different environment.
Well, definitely. But if you were to talk to any investor that has been placed in Dubai or Qatar or the UAE generally, equally, if you were to speak to them 20 years ago, that
similar.
But speak to them today, and they understand this process, this progress, but again, a step change to Riyadh, because this is taking a really substantial, global city and enhancing it. So it's not a build from scratch,
So how big is the project? I mean, can you give our viewers of sort of how, I mean, maybe in total price of the whole, what are the total costs at the end, or the total value of?
I mean, our high level statistics is 19 square kilometres of land area. So that's what the concept master plan sort of encompasses. 25% of that will be retained as public landscaped urban realm. And then within that we have 18 different communities, and those communities, they're generally the highest weighting goes to residential, but they are genuine integrated mixed-use communities, and based on a 15-minute walkable city concept. So the idea is to bring all of the urban elements, whether it's workplace, whether it's education, religious facilities, sports and entertainment, all into your sort of community cluster. So it's a big change away from being highly dependent on individual vehicular transport. So that's basically, we're looking at the moment, the current master plan's about over 100,000 dwellings. Really substantial amount of office, probably in the sort of 500 to 700,000 square meters sort of range. We've got really substantial retail within the macabre that will service Riyadh generally and the community, and then we have mixed use retail sort of throughout the communities. And our focus is really to get the is to get the macabre up and going, and we're with a target of the 2030 date for that in our core downtown to be delivered and up and running. So within that process, and then the project will sort of be delivered out from that in a more sort of wider community.
Talking to talking to anyone that's going to be there or live there, how do you see their lifestyle? Because that's what I notice is now, and almost everyone I'm talking to, before it was like, I've got this, I've got that, I've got this other. Now it's just like lifestyle living. How do you see? What do you see that is going to be some of the top 1, 2, 3 things that are going to enhance people's lifestyles for living there?
Well, I think it's taking all of the great aspects of Riyadh, which there's an amazing sort of community, family sort of related structures, and everyone has a sort of a certain pattern of life, and it's about sort of taking that and bringing that into a bit of a sharper focus in terms of its overall, density and proximity. So it's a bit of a shift away from having sort of quite so many vehicles to depend on, and it's bringing a lot of that into much closer proximity, so that people have got that amenity, sort of within a very sort of close walkable distance. But it's set up to sort of see the evolution of the demographics throughout the kingdom. Which we're sort of at the moment, I think it's
very young, very young group,
A great many people you speak to have a lot of brothers and sisters, and they and they live in multi-generational tight community family sort of groups. So it's about sort of saying, well, what's the step change into a perhaps a move slightly away from more villa related sort of residential into apartment related living, but then sort of keep the proximity and stuff that people in Riyadh really enjoy.
Okay, great. And so one last question, because I know we're running out of time, but what do you see from the result or from the responses because generally it's Europeans here. So what is, let's say, the European response to investing there, to helping with development projects? Are you finding good partners? Are you finding what you wanted to find? Are you missing anything? And what would you say specifically to anyone walking around here would be the opportunity for them as an investor developer?
Yeah, I think if you compare the European sort of exposure to the market, if it was compared to the GCC or some of the some of the Asian investors, we've sort of been speaking to at early stages, is I think within this phase it's still a lot of familiarity that's sort of being sort of processed throughout that. But as I said earlier, we're really looking at sort of saying how do we package investment opportunities within this, and sort of really and then understand how that can be best structured to meet institutional capital sort of requirements. Or but it's a mix, between, we're not just singularly after the capital investment. What we really want to do is align with operators, groups that can bring specific sort of IP technology related partnerships, so it's really the whole spectrum. The question is, how do we bring that down into more bite-sized investable pieces, and we're gathering momentum on that very quickly.
Or someone can go back with a perspective to the credit committee and say, this is an offer.
I mean, so for example, I think one of our early focuses will be around the hospitality assets. So there's definitely investment groups that would look at that, and
they understand it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's about really understanding how we target sort of specific capital interests. And we've got social infrastructure investments, so we've got groups that would invest in education, we've got groups that would invest in health, we've got groups that would invest in sort of hard and soft infrastructure sort of elements. So it's about us sort of really articulating the full spectrum of that, and then it's how do you eat an elephant? We've got to sort of start to break.
Start somewhere. No, I would imagine, just thinking myself, that Middle East and Asians are probably quicker to react.
Yes.
And Europeans, I would think, are probably, just knowing them, are a little bit more cautious, right? Like, okay, we bet you. I was talking to some Austrians, and they're like, well. And I said, oh, you just started doing business with us after 5 years. And they were like, yeah, we just wanted to make sure you were going to still be around. And it was like, 5 years? Okay, great.
Well, I think it's really about, everywhere has a level of contextuality that you need to deal with. And some of the groups that we're talking to, maybe there's a sort of a first foot in the kingdom by providing, say, facilities management services. But they ultimately are looking at that with a view towards ultimately investing and stuff. So there's ways that I think there's ways of entering under a joint venture or so you get that alignment, you get that. So it's not
cutting a bit of risk.
It's not jumping in cold, know. So
learn if it's the right decision. Great. Well, we definitely like to come by, see the project, film some of what's.
Well, you definitely should. It's awesome. You should see we've got 250 plus excavators on site we've just done. Was it 10 million cubic meters of material have been moved? So
we can actually see it from space.
You can. And I think everyone sort of drives past it on the way to the airport. I think and it's got a higher level of visibility within Riyadh, and so I think that's amazing. We get a lot of community interest and stuff, because you can really the progress is very tangible.
Right. I think I've seen a few videos with all the excavators like lined up in a row, just moving sand.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Very exciting. Well, so Carl Michael Schibrowski, thank you very much for your time and great project. We definitely like to cover more in the weeks and months and years to come as it's coming up. And congratulations on such a good thing. And we'll tag you in the text on our LinkedIn video so they can contact you directly if they're interested in anything.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Craig.
Well, thank you. Thanks, and have a great day.
Pleasure.
Click here to subscribe to the Coffee with Craig show, and don't forget to share it with your friends.